The eye of Hurricane Idalia has left the state of Florida. Utility workers are actively working to restore power in all affected areas.
To join Governor DeSantis tomorrow to do assessments and see firsthand what the impacts from this storm are.
We have to remain vigilant, and there's much more to do.
Thanks so much for being with us on this very busy Wednesday evening. I'm Jeff Cornish.
And I'm Michelle McLeod, and we have a team coverage with a lot of our reporters and storm chasers and meteorologists on the ground giving us information in real time. And for right now, we have Emmy Victor joining us. She's in Charleston, South Carolina, Jeff.
Yeah, and we are concerned about the escalating flood potential there, not just because of heavy rain, but also that onshore wind. We have a high tide this evening, and that's going to be a big problem there as we're very prone to flooding and storm surge related issues in Charleston, especially the downtown areas.
And on top of that, Jeff, we have a blue moon, super moon, full moon, and that's going to exacerbate those tidal conditions.
Yeah, so let's go over to AccuWeather's Emmy Victor live in Charleston, South Carolina. So, Emmy, how are things there right now?
Well, Jeff, we are down to the final hours before we see some of the heaviest impacts from this storm in the Charleston area. I can tell you that although it just stopped raining in this area, the winds just started picking up out of nowhere. You can see probably a little bit of my hat and my outfit flying around right now as I do this live report. We're just a few blocks away from Rainbow Row for anyone who's familiar with the Charleston area, and it's pretty quiet right now. Not a lot of people are out and about, but if there's one place we have seen people, it is at the sandbagging sites around the city. We have been seeing people all day go to those sites, pick up sandbags, pack them up, put them in their cars, and bring them home. When I asked different people about why they decided to come, they really stress the importance of protecting their homes, their valuables, their businesses from flooding. Anyone who's familiar with the Charleston area knows how much it can flood here. It is called the Low Country for a reason, after all. And I asked people why it was important for them to have these bags. Take a listen.
I think drains are going to get backed up and parking lots are going to flood, and a lot of these businesses are on a ground level to the parking lot, so we hope it'll work. It's better than doing nothing.
I'm getting about 10 to put around the front door, the garage door, and the side door, just to make sure no water gets in the house.
And flooding is just one of the threats that people here in South Carolina are facing today. Tornadoes have been an issue as well. Earlier, about 20 miles north of where I am in downtown Charleston, there was a brief tornado that took place. It ended up causing some damage to a car, as you can see in this video. Back here live, just when I said the rain had stopped, it is picking back up again. The gusts are certainly causing it to be a little hard to stand right now. But we'll continue to be here live, giving you the very latest of what's going on here in Charleston, as some of what we've seen in other states will be approaching this area very soon.
Well, we appreciate your reporting there. Be safe. Emmy Victor in Charleston, South Carolina. As we take a look at the river flood gauge here for Charleston Harbor. Again, this is called the Cooper River, but it really broadens out and it becomes one with the ocean here. So as opposed to a lot of rivers that rise and fall only based on rainfall, here we see the daily rise and fall 2 times a day with high tide and low tide. So typically you can see that the baseline would take our average water level to around 3 feet for the tide height. We're looking at basically a storm surge tonight, up around 8.7 feet for the level of high tide. So that would be about a 5-foot storm surge there, more or less, a 3 to 5 foot storm surge for downtown Charleston, and that's a big concern. We'll keep an eye on that. Right now, we still have some ongoing river and even just storm surge flooding into places near Newport Richey here in Florida. And here you can see the tide is still coming up. And, well, actually, in this area, we saw the tide gauge fail at 4.4 feet a bit ago. So, again, that was a case where the tide gauge just failed, likely inundated because of flooding. We also showed you that footage there of that car being flipped. That was pretty wild here, and Emmy talked about that. Here's the report for that. Tornado Emergency Management reported that car was flipped over. We saw the video evidence of that. That was on Camelot Drive and South Goose Creek Boulevard there in Goose Creek, South Carolina. We have some ongoing heavy rain. The storm surge-related flooding will remain a big problem for us here. And as we take you into the radar, the overall footprint of the rain, pretty expansive now. And again, widespread rain across much of interior South Carolina, northeast Georgia, and then southern North Carolina. But within some of these gusty squalls, we're dealing with some zones of brief rotation at times, and that's always a concern because we can find the risk for a tornado here and there in some of those cases. So we have to stay on top of that here on the AccuWeather Network. At this point, not seeing any tornado warnings, and we hope that that trend will continue. Let's go to Kiowa Island now with more. Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, you can see those gusty winds with the trees, and you can see the onshore flow there, all that rough surf, and we've been talking about rough surf. That's going to continue as you head throughout the night. Look at this path of the storm. I want you to notice it kind of stabilizes and stays a tropical storm throughout Wednesday, 8 a.m. Wednesday. Well, here we go. I mean, Charleston, you're getting in on the worst conditions. You're not done with it. I mean, when Jeff was showing you that center of circulation, you're like, oh, okay, we're almost done. No, not so much, not until midnight. Seeing your winds 60 to 80 miles an hour with storm surge 1 to 3 feet. And then we go a little farther north to places like Wilmington and North Carolina. Your worst conditions are going to be tonight until tomorrow late morning with your highest wind gusts 40 to 60 miles an hour and your storm surge 1 to 3 feet with total rainfall of 4 to 8 inches. When it comes to impacts, places like Charleston are going to see a high impact to risks in lives and property, and you have an AccuWeather real impact scale of 4 for the U.S. with long-term duration power outages and flooding. Well, we're going to continue to track Idalia as it moves farther north. Stay tuned. And as we take you to break, here are some important information for those living along the Gulf coastal communities in Florida.